Okay, here's our practice quiz 6.4. Okay, number 1 says name 4 classical curves. The 4 classical curves are the rose, the limacon, the lemniscate, and the spiral. Those are the 4 classical curves. And yeah, you got to get as close as possible to spelling. Okay, so which curve do we have here for problem A? So there they are. So now we're going to match them up with their equations. So which is which? Well, each of the equations has a special characteristic, which we discussed in the notes. So this one, the first equation, notice that it has no sine or cosine, or no trig function at all. Since there's no trig function in this one is a spiral. When there is no sine or cosine, you know you have a spiral. This one, the second equation, has a plus sign in it. If the equation has a plus or a minus in it, it is a limacon. A limacon has a plus or a minus in the middle of it right there. If we have a squared in our equation, we have a lemniscate. And quite honestly, kids, if we don't have any of those things, no function means a spiral. Add or subtract means a limacon. Squared means a lemniscate. Otherwise, you've got a rose. Okay. Next question gives me the equation of a limacon. And it wants to know if this is a cardioid or not. Well, you'll recall from the notes that, oh, sorry, this is a sign. Doesn't make any difference. That does not impact the answer at all. You recall from the notes that these two numbers have to match for it to be a cardioid. So no, it's not a cardioid because 5 and 4 aren't the same. They have to be the same number. So this could be 5 minus 5 sign. It could be 4 plus 4 sign. But if these two numbers aren't the same, it is not a cardioid. All right, this is a rose. And we want to know how many leaves and how long the leaves are. Well, we recall that this number right here tells us the length. So the length is 6 units. The length is 6 units. This number deals with how many, but you got to be careful. If the number is odd, that is how many. But if the number is even, there are double that many. So this guy has 8 leaves. If this number right here is even, there are double that many leaves. If that number is odd, that is exactly how many leaves there are. So if anything I'm saying is like baffling you, you need to go back and look at your notes or the multitude of other practice quizzes that are in Schoology. Number 5 is a lemniscate. I know because it has a squared. And we want to know how long the leaves are. Well, it's the same principle as here. This number gives us the length when it's r equals. So if we made this r equals, then the length would be 4. I'm not going to write that, but I'm going to say the length is 4. The square root is 16. Same concept as here. This front number gives you the length. But here, since it's squared, we have to take the square root. Six, find polar coordinates for, no, that should say find rectangular. That says find rectangular coordinates. I'm looking at the wrong one. Find rectangular coordinates for 6, 200. Find rectangular coordinates. That means I want to find x and y. And if you have learned nothing else, you know that x equals r cosine theta and y equals r sine theta. So x equals 6 cosine 200 and y equals 6 sine 200. And I'll go to my calculator. 6 cosine 200 is, and then my answer will be negative 5.64, comma, 6 sine 200, negative 2.05. And that is the answer to the question. Those are the rectangular coordinates for 6, 200. Okay, so now we're going to do the opposite. Now we're going to find polar coordinates for negative 3, 5. Okay, this is number 7. Now, that means we want to find r and we want to find theta. So in terms of vectors, what we did in the last unit, we want to find the magnitude and the direction angle. So we'll draw a picture. Left 3, up 5. This is r. This is the magnitude. So we're going to square 3, square 5, add them together and take the square root. So the radius is root 34. R is root 34. That's your r value. Now, your theta value is actually this guy right here. That's going to be theta. But as usual, we can't find theta. We'll have to find angle A. So to find angle A, we'll say the tangent of A equals 5/3. The tangent of A equals 5/3. And then to get A, to actually get the angle, we will second tangent 5/3. So when I do that on my calculator, second tangent 5/3, I get 59.04. So this angle right here is 59.04. Now the purple angle is actually my theta. That's what's going to go right here. So to get that, I'll do 180 minus the 59 number. So my purple angle is 120.96. And those are the polar coordinates. These are the polar coordinates for that ordered pair. Again, I want you to just pay attention to the fact that that question was on your quest when you had your last quest, when you had to find the magnitude, that's r, and the direction angle, that's theta. It's exactly what we did before. Easy peasy. Okay, what are we now? Number 8. Sometimes in the course of working with these things, we get a polar coordinate pair with a negative r value. And of course, that's impossible to graph a negative r because you can't get on a circle with a negative radius. So we have to make that positive. So it's going to be plotted on the 4 circle. But where on the 4 circle? Well, that negative tells you to go the opposite direction. So go 180 degrees the other way. So instead of going 130, we'll go 310 because 130 plus 180 is 310 degrees. So that's where it gets plotted. When we change the sign on our R, when we make R positive, the angle goes the other direction, so 180 degrees. That's the opposite direction. So that's where it would be plotted. Okay. Number 9. R equals 5 secant theta. And we are going to rewrite this as a rectangular equation. So that means we can't have r's and thetas. We want to have just x's and y's. So you'll remember there's a process to this. The first thing you want to do is replace secant theta with its definition. So I put the gold sheet in Schoology. If you've forgotten, or if you lost yours and forgot the definitions, you need to know them. The secant is r over x. So whatever function is in the problem, you replace it with its definition. Then we get rid of the fraction. This will always be a fraction. So we're going to get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by x in this case. So we have xr equals 5r. Notice both sides have an r, so we'll divide. And the answer is x equals 5. X equals 5. Now, number 10 is exactly the same, only the equation is r equals 6 sine. But I'm going to do the process exactly the same way. So I'll start by changing sine into its definition, which is y over r. Then I'll clear the fraction. This time I have to multiply by r because I multiply by whatever the denominator is, because I want to cancel that out. So r squared equals 6y. And then, as you'll recall from the notes, r squared is x squared plus y squared. Because in your right triangle, this is x, this is y, this is r. The Pythagorean theorem says x squared plus y squared always equals r squared. So when you have an r squared, you can replace it with x squared plus y squared, and there is your rectangular equation. Now, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all just freehand sketches to make sure you know what the shapes are. So 11 is a hyperbolic spiral. So we're freehand sketching. Now, remember there are two kinds of spirals. They're the ones that start in and spin out. And then there are the ones that start out and spin in. And hyperbolic is the one that starts out and spins in. So it would look like this. And you'd want to put some arrows on there to make sure you're clear on your direction. If it were Archimedean, it would start at the pole and spin out this way. That would be an Archimedean spiral. See the difference? 12 says, so this is the answer right here. Oh, putting a circle around it didn't really help, does it? This is the answer. A lemniscate. A lemniscate is any kind of figure 8. So you can make it right side up, you can make it sideways, you can make it diagonal. Doesn't make any difference. Any kind of figure 8. Oh, now number 13 is, what's your spiral of Archimedes? Well, your spiral of Archimedes is the one that starts at the pole, starts at the origin, and spins out this way. That's your spiral of Archimedes. And your limacon. Your limacon is any kind of a lima bean shape. So it can look like that. It could be just a heart shape, so it could look like this. Any kind of like dented in type circle, that's your Lima sign. Sometimes it has that little loop inside, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, good luck. The quiz is not open note. Make sure you know this stuff.